Get started. Good afternoon. I'm very glad to open this discussion. Thank you very much for the Caspian Forum and River Port Expo to organize this meeting, because I think and I believe that ecological future for the Caspian region is one of the most important points for development, and we are in the WBRF putting great attention for this. We would be like to be a competent center for this problematic in Russia. And I hope that all experts who are going to make presentation today is the best expert in with circular economy, and it will be open for us the big perspective, how to manage waste, how to use the best technologies, and what we should do to avoid the problems which we can repeat from the foreign experience, and what we will do at the next step of economy development after the virus period. We have to prepare today, and I open this discussion, and I'd like to give a floor to Mr. Mariev, who is an expert of the main organization, main institute, who is responsible for the technologies for Russian development. This is your floor, because you are one of us who represents an official position for this. Please, Vladimir. 7 minutes. Please keep the reglement, because we've got 5 speakers today, and I'd like to keep minimum 5 or 10 minutes for our guests to join our discussion. Please send your questions to the chat.
Yeah, okay. Do you hear me, and do you see me?
Yes, we can.
Yes, yeah. Very well.
Great. Good afternoon, dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm very glad to join this conference and to participate in this conference. And I will thank you, Yulia, for your words about my position in this conference. I want to introduce our institute. I represent the Ecological Industrial Policy Center of the Russian Federation. It's the center under the Ministry of Industry and Trade, and we are responsible. We are the Bureau of the Best Available Techniques, and we are also responsible for the strategy of the waste recycling industry in the Russian Federation. And as you know, Russia now makes their main steps towards circular economy in the Russian Federation. And during the order of our president, Vladimir Putin, the circular economy becomes their main ecological and industrial policy in our country. Last year, not last year, but in 2018, in Russia, it was adopted the national project Ecology, and this project, of course, is very important for us because it shows what our country must do in the framework of green technologies, and in the framework of reducing the huge amount of waste generated in the Russian Federation. And of course, their main position, the main task for us is to build the infrastructure in Russia, and the infrastructure not only for municipal solid waste, but infrastructure for the all kinds of waste, including industrial waste. And now it was made some legislation, legislations, and as for the legislation for eco-industrial parks, it's the eco-industrial symbiosis parks. This law must be adopted by the end of this year in Russia, and their law about the secondary resources, it's also their most important position. This law must also be adopted by the end of this year. And of course, our country provides a lot of measures and a lot of steps toward 3R: reduce, reuse, and recycle policy. And 3R policy is the basic for the circular economy. Of course, our main task is to involve all the amounts of secondary resources, all the amounts of waste into the economic into the infrastructure projects. I think that all my colleagues will show it in practical projects, road infrastructure and other kinds of infrastructure projects. And of course, we understand that the synergy of national projects, which is now which is now our gain of all the ecological natural policy. The synergy of national projects is the main task for us. Of course, for example, our Institute for Ecological Industrial Policy Center, we are now preparing some projects connected with usage of secondary resources in road construction, in railroad construction, and in other kinds of projects. And as for the usage of waste in the cement kilns, it's also very important task how to make a system for usage of municipal solid waste, of RDF fuel in the cement kilns, because of course it will reduce the amount of waste which are generated every year in our country. So of course we are at the beginning of the process for circular economy in Russia, and we hope that, and we are not hope, but we are sure that the 11 projects, federal projects of the national project of federal projects within the national project ecology, including the reducing the waste which goes into Volga River, into other lakes. It's very important for us, and to create the circular systems for the water, for sewage waters. It's also one of the basic direction of the reducing different kinds of waste in our country. So we hope that the beginning of this process is for our country. It's only the really the beginning of the process, and we will be very glad to cooperate with the owners of new technologies to implement it in their within our national project ecology, and we hope that the amendments into the main laws of our country, the main environmental laws, could provide implementing the innovative technologies in different regions, including the Caspian region of our country. So we hope to cooperate with you, dear colleagues, and we hope that next year during some conference like this, we could show the real results of ecological projects. So thank you so much, and welcome to cooperation.
Thank you very much, Vladimir. I think that questions we will keep till the end of our discussion. I think that for everyone will be a question what the newest technologies we will use, and have we some barriers to use it. And I think this question about barriers will be especially for you, because you know better what you are going to do. And please, I think it will be my question, what regulation are you going to prepare to make this process smooth and comfortable for the our industrial partners and for the people. Okay. Thank you very much.
Will do.
I move the floor to Lafarge company, Nicholas Miravals. This is one of the good Russian partners, one of the most innovative in different fields. We are having good relations in waste management, in building, in development and materials. And today the floor is especially for the technologies which we are going to implement in the road construction. Yeah, your floor, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Julia. Thank you very much. Good morning, good afternoon, actually, everyone. My name is Nicolas Miravals. I'm heading the road department for Lafarge Holcim Group. Thank you for your kind words on our collaboration in Russia. I think it's really a long-term collaboration we are having, and being part of the so.
Okay, on the left.
We probably can move to the next speaker, and Nicholas can fix the connection, or we can wait a little bit.
Maybe a second, or Dmitry, what should we do?
I think we move to the next speaker, and Nicholas will fix connection.
Okay.
It's easier, probably.
So the floor we will move to Mr. Stanislav Mamulat. He is one of the best experts, international experts in the new technologies, not only for the road construction, but for the maintenance. And we've got really good relations with him. We prepared many scientific and not only scientific contracts. So Stanislav, please.
Hello. Hello, dear colleagues. I'm Stanislav Moulat. Do you hear me? Hello? Yeah?
Yes, yes, very well.
Good. And I will, I'm a member of the board of Belt and Road International Transport Alliance and counselor of the general director of Federal Research Institute Rosdorny of Russia. And I will explain exactly mostly about the new technological approaches to the circular economy and the role of the new technologies in the nearest development of circular technology. So as Vladimir Mariev has already said, we have a big program for strategic development of Russian economy, and there are several national projects. Largest of them are projects to develop infrastructure. The third one with funding up 600 billion, I'm sorry, I have mistake, hundreds billion dollars is national project ecology with exactly federal project best available technologies. And we start that program from the situation when the useful part of the production results is not more than 10% of all, let's say, used energy and all produced work. So we need to increase that part of not used yet results and materials and make them really secondary resources. And to do that, we need new technologies, new scientific knowledge. But if we will do that, we have very good opportunities to make it capital and to use to make cheaper infrastructure development and construction, and in the same time to decrease risks, create better life for us, for next generations, and also decrease risks for investors. So in right now we have a lot of different wastes, but from industrial wastes, the largest are some of largest one could be very helpfully used for infrastructure development and exactly for roads constructions. For example, here there are shown data about the producing and the accumulated stocks of those wastes, coal ash, metallurgical slags, nepheline, slurries, and others. And total volume, what we have already accumulated, those materials or wastes till now is more than 2 billion tons. what very comparative with, for example, 10 years of construction with regular annual volume of consumption of aggregate materials for road construction. I thought that Nicolas will make before me his presentation, and I hope he will do that later, and he will explain about the technology of base stabilization and using using secondary materials as additives, as stabilized modifiers, soil stabilization modifiers. But I want to explain about exactly the new approaches. They are technologically very close to the base stabilization, but really new approach to construction and maintenance of roads. This is very popular now word, self-healing materials. So this is some sort, not self-healing, but induction microwave healing materials. The approach is, if we will choose and mill, for example, waste polymers, we'll mix them with induction induction effective additives from metals, for example, or carbon materials, and we'll make the pavement from that, and we'll mix with aggregate. So after putting to the pavement of the road and heating with such, for example, equipment, microwave heater, and then compacting usual way, we can have polymer road, not asphalt concrete, but polymer concrete, which could be much more long-lasting than asphalt concrete or cement concrete. Another approach has even more strategic results. This is, for example, bio-cementing, which could be used same for base stabilization and for road slopes stabilization with using organic wastes like sealed fields slurries together with some calcium wastes like phosphogypsum. Mix of them provide with special under special control of lab mix design, could provide not just the pretty strong material, but also provide opportunity to for carbon sequestration, because the bacteria which are used for that, they are very usual in the nature and in soils and even in our bodies, and are responsible for urea and other organic hydrolyzation and conservation into the carbon, let's say, materials or soils. Using those technologies and those wastes is possible build a lot of roads and infrastructure stuff, but worldwide is already have very good experience to use wastes for technologies even for very, very important buildings, like in this case, our colleagues from Power China, unfortunately, they will not participate today with us. They have built a dam for hydropower station. You could see on this picture, the height of this dam is more than 300 meters. And for building of that dam, it was used more than 1 million tons of coal ash. And savings provide $1 billion, became $1 billion of investments. So I think briefly, I could show that knowledge and technologies could give opportunity to make from the waste capital. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Stanislav. It's a really good presentation. And I think that all ideas which you announced will be implemented in Russia really soon. And thank you very much. And I hope that our connection now is good with Mr. Miravals. Yes, okay. So your presentation connected very close to the Lafarge Road construction ideas. I think it's a good discussion at our panel. So please take your floor.
Thank you very much, and thank you, Stanislav, because actually it was better than I present after you, because the topic you mentioned is really close to what I will present now. So thank you for the introduction. So as you know, Lafarge Holcim is a worldwide leader in construction materials. And I want to share with you today an initiative about building better, and it's very close to circular economy, building better roads and building better roads with the best materials. As a preamble, a quick one, just to mention that you know, before we were designing roads on mechanical performance, on mechanical design, essentially. Now we are in an environment where we have much more problematics like environmental, societal, responsible consumption, or other thematics that we need to address. Another point is about the magnitude of this road investment. When we talk about infrastructure, road is about 700,000 kilometers of new lanes built every year, 500 billion euro investment, which make roads the most important public asset under management. Actually, it's about 1% of the global GDP every year reinvested on roads. The problematic is that it's very, very material intensive, and it's consuming a lot of materials. And here is the link with recycle economy, circular economy, sorry, and the material consumption. 40,000 tons of materials for 1 kilometer of 2 lanes motorway, 1.3 kilotons of carbon equivalent emission, and between 25 and 40% of the direct cost of road investment that are made. So the impact is massive, and you can see that visually on this drawing, very schematic, but still, you see roads is layers and layers of material, so it's very material intensive. And this impact, direct and indirect, are about 60% on the construction cost. When you add up the direct cost,
sí,
the indirect cost.
Pero es que me habían dado otro. Ahora estoy, he tenido que hacerlo por el iPad. Cuando ese no tiene velocidad, ya veremos a ver cómo lo consigo.
Okay.
No, yo estoy viendo.
On mute your microphone.
Yo siempre veo a la gente.
Carlos.
Ahora
Juan Carlos, please put on mute your microphone. Pardon, Nicola.
Okay, thank you, Julia. So I was saying that the material intensity of road is about 60% on the construction cost. This is the impact, the magnitude of the impact, and 85% on the carbon emission. So we better know and understand very well what we do in terms of pavement design. The second point is the fragmented value chain. Mr. Vladimir exposed the ambition on public spending on roads and infrastructure and public infrastructure. This is most of the time public investments. So there is designers, lender, public owners, development banks sometimes, or founders. So at the design stage, many people, and then execution stage and operation stage. So those three stages have many stakeholders and many different interlocutors, and it's right in the middle, a public tender barrier, which make the communication quite, let's say, limited for the purpose of the public bid. Huh? And then, yes, we have what we call a knowledge gap on materials, because the construction world, after the tender, is not communicating always with the decision world before the tender when it comes to the right choices on materials. And this choice has a massive impact. Today, we estimate that roads investments are non-optimized, let's say by 15% on the cost and uncontrolled life cycle, of course. And the impact on the carbon emission might be around 50% if we do the right choice upstream. So materials will contribute to circular economy definitively, because it's a matter of using them. So ORIS is a material intelligence platform for road optimization. It's made of 3 blocks. So it's a material geolocalized database, so construction materials, where we can elaborate all the construction materials available in any country. It's a knowledge intelligence platform with algorithm and construction intelligence in a digital manner. And of course, it's an industry secured platform, because each one should be able to get out of this platform the right level of information. Today, it addresses 4 dimensions: budget, environmental, durability, and natural resources. Maybe I will focus more on the natural resources part, because this is the circular economy link. And out of this, of course, you can get indicators like re-employment of materials. Stanislas mentioned the fact that we can sometimes retreat or avoid the natural resources, preserve some natural resources with some adequate structures. So ORIS will help calculate and compare exactly the structures to make sure that we have the right impact on each of those dimensions. So many benefits out of this. We can have a very quick visual on that. 30%, up to 30% on cost, according to the best structure, up to 50% on carbon, 70% for the long-term impact on durability and maintenance, because circular economy is obviously linked to durability as well, and up to 80% of reduction of natural resources in some cases. So obviously you cannot get all the benefits at the same time, and that's why the need for a digital tool becomes important, because you need to arbitrate, and it depends on your priorities, and you need to be able to do this arbitration. It's a complex calculation. How does it work? Actually, ORIS will be made as a platform where Lafarge team as material expert will bring knowledge, technology, transparency, and security system with big technology partners. And it's really aiming at facilitating the co-working between engineers, road designers, material suppliers, and obviously governments and road authorities, and even financiers. Because as we all know, the more we take the things upstream and the more we understand the entire life cycle of a project before we get started, the better. And that's really the aim of that. Of course, it's about being able to build sustainable roads. I just mentioned, and I finish with that one example. I like very much this example because it's also geographically not so far. We've been using this project in Azerbaijan, where we had some initial design and some ORIS functions afterwards, and we've been evidencing, I would say, some very interesting gaps in terms of logistic placement, materials, and maintenance. So that's just to give the magnitude of what we can reach, and also to give the type of dashboard we can get out of the tool. This is a map in France, also on another project. So it gives you a very accurate definition of the local sourcing that can be used for a project, and then you can get more out of it because you can get the routes and the definition of the routes, etc. So you can just tailor to your needs. And you have also dashboard with some more accurate information, again, if you want to deep dive into the structures. So here we were comparing 5 different structures on the bottom left, and we compare them in terms of cost, and we compare them in terms of carbon also, and we are able to make the right decision. Indicators on circular economy, landfilling, backhaulage, on the logistic, all those things can be mastered before the construction, and that's the main message. So we can make the right choice right before the construction. I will stop here, not to be too long, and I want to thank you again for your invitation here, and I was very happy to contribute.
Thank you very much, Nicolas. It's really interesting to prolong discussion from Stanislav to you. And now we are moving from France to Geneva to diplomats. And I'm giving this floor to Nara Lufsan, the senior former United Nations Syria advisor. UNEP, it's one of the main regulators for ecological project. And I think that it would be very interesting vision in connection with projects which especially China regulated and presented with BRI initiative. We are working in close connection. Sorry about Geneva. I think that you are in Zurich, yeah?
Geneva.
In Geneva, okay, everything is correct. So this is your floor.
Yes,
please.
Thank you, Yulia, and I'm very happy to be part of this very important discussion, very actual, topical issue, which is the circular economy. So, Dimitri, I think I will press now on the share screen, right? And then share.
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out the.
Good. Works.
Is it on now, my presentation?
Yes.
Okay, very good indeed. Okay. And then what do I do? Just 1 second.
You just scroll on, yeah.
Okay, good. So we all know that green finance or sustainable finance is very closely linked to sustainable development priorities worldwide. Governments and private sector alike are now refocusing our economies, our society on low carbon societies. So here are just some figures that shows that there is growing awareness and recognition for green finance. For instance, the latest report by the Global Sustainable Investment Alliance shows that over 30 trillion funds are held in sustainable or green investments. And the public principles for responsible banking initiative, it's a UNEP finance initiative-led initiative that was launched last year in New York during the General Assembly, has now over 170 signatories, including the initial 130 banks as members, representing a total of 47 trillion US dollars in their assets. And task forces such as like the climate-related financial disclosure, they say they have over 1,000 companies and supporters, and their total asset is in the range of over 138 trillions. And one of these surveys shows that actually ever-increasing number of companies are disclosing transparently their information, both carbon intensive, but also climate-related, low carbon and other climate risk-related information and data. When it comes to waste, we could look also maybe into the internal and external funding. Internal meaning really the companies, actually, whether it's a company or industry, they can build in the costs, for instance, for waste treatment facilities and equipment in their normal production cost or annual budget, whether it's for a specific company or for several industries and companies that share the same location, such as in an industrial park. But when it comes to legacy waste, because our world has a lot of legacy waste from the previous era, from the previous many years. In that case, governments actually can step in with the green finance, such as taxes collected from industrial dischargers. And the whole area of climate and adaptation offers vast opportunity. For instance, using waste as fuel, right? And here we all know all of the multilateral international players, such as the Green Climate Fund, World Bank, Asia Infrastructure Bank, the whole UN, etc., have a big role to play. Let me give you a Green Climate Fund example. For instance, China's Shandong province, which is a very carbon intensive region, they borrowed a blended finance from GCF, used that financing to attract co-financing, which is 7-8 times more than the funds offered by the GCF. And their main aim is, of course, to be a main investor funder for sectors that would be focused on climate adaptation and mitigation. So in Asia, of course, in terms of waste sector, actually, there are lots of good examples from Asia, especially Singapore, China, Japan, Korea. A Singaporean company called Syndicatum Renewable Energy Company, for instance, in the case of Thailand, one of their projects is that they use the Bangkok's largest landfill. They use the landfill gas to generate clean power. And the Syndicatum, usually they develop, finance, own, operate this kind of clean energy projects in South and Southeast Asia. And after a few years, they sell these projects to national players. So there is, of course, the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development. They have lots of experience, especially in the areas of municipal project waste. This one is from Belarus, Pohovichi region. So they got around 7 million euros to design and construct a EU-compliant regional sanitary landfill and waste sorting facility. And they use a combination of the loan, but also grant, because grant helps a lot to prepare the local capacity and prepare all kinds of other preparatory legwork. Okay, green bonds. We know, all of us know green bonds quite well, because both national and local governments issue green bonds to stimulate many private sector actors. According to this table, in 2019, the top green bond issuers were actually the USA and China. So from now on, I will present several slides, and this is from Dr. Prasad Modak. He is a long-time friend and international, actually quite well-known expert in waste management and environmental sustainability issues. His company is based in Mumbai, India, and later on he would like to be also part of our joint endeavor. So for instance, for sectors like waste, actually the venture capital angel investors are quite suitable because they are quite flexible. They can inject capital at various stages of the company maturity, and they can follow the growth of the company, provide advice and give access to their network, etc. For instance, T-Hub in India, they particularly focus on next generation products and new business models. And since 2015, they supported over 1,000 national and international companies and startups, especially. For instance, this company Banyan Nation and Sanshandan that work in the e-waste management area. This is another group, Avishkar Group. They focus on impact investment fund, and they manage assets in excess of $1 billion across Asia, such as India, Indonesia, Bangladesh, and Kenya. And some of the shareholders of this group are Triodos Bank, Shell Foundation, and Dutch Entrepreneurial Development Banks, FMO. So as I mentioned, the Banyan Nation, they focus on resource recovery. Sati Pads, they focus on circular supplies. Also, they cooperate with the Angel Investor Mass Challenge. This closed loop fund that was created in 2014 is a social impact fund that focuses on recycling infrastructure across America. And their aim is to invest over $100 million in increasing recycling of products such as packaging. And I know an example of Amazon. Amazon actually invested in the closed loop fund in 2018, over $10 million US. They financed the curbside recycling facilities for over 3,000 communities. And their calculation is that by 2028, it will have saved 2 million metric tons of CO2, and also it will have diverted 1 million, 1 million ton equivalent of materials from landfill to recycling streams. So they bring, you see, these big companies like 3M, Coca-Cola, Colgate, and many more. So in mezzanine financing, usually debt and equity are used in a combined form. And because in case of default, the company, the lenders can convert the loan into equity. And the blended, we lately hear a lot about blended capital, blended financing, and it's mainly about capital that is supported by development and philanthropic funds. And IFC, the International Finance Corporation, uses blended financing for all kinds of green financing projects. So of course, in many parts of the world, we raise money from markets and by governments. We all are familiar with crowdfunding, you know, the type that involves equity, but also non-equity. And we have heard quite a lot about green bonds lately, climate bonds, carbon finance, and as well as the old known form of collecting funds through taxes, you know, following the polluter pays principle. And we recognize that actually in the longer term, actually in the medium and long term, we need more strategic alliances. This is an interesting example. It's a startup called Bundles. So instead of selling actually washing machines, they invest of washing cycles. So they offer their services in installing, maintaining, repairing washing machines. And for that, they collaborate with the big names such as Miele, or they get, you know, green the financing sources from various banks. So Black Bear, it's also a resource, focuses on resource recovery, and they use end-of-life tires as a feedstock to produce consistent and high quality carbon blacks, and they that way they attract green investments from commercial banks, EIB, and private equity players. Decalia, okay, Decalia is actually a very old asset and wealth management company. I think it's a sub-fund from a Luxembourg Decalia fund. They are actually here registered in Geneva and in some of the European parties. And they launched this circular economy branch, if you like, because their asset management analysts found out that between 2015 and 2018, investing in circular economy brought a gain increase about 70% compared to the traditional plus 30%, I guess, gain according to the MSCI indexes. So now they are working with over 580 companies in different parts of the world that focus, of course, on sectors such as waste management, recycling, renewable energy, smart grid, smart and green materials, industry 4.0. Okay, here is another example of a fund, the Black Gold Fund.
You do it a little
Faster.
Faster,
yeah. Okay, so this is another example. You can look it up as well, right? The BGF Circular Fund. They want to invest actually over 80% of its total assets in circular economy. So, and actually this is part of the BlackRock company, and BlackRock was under attack, I guess, by the environmentalist NGOs, etc. And so they are investing actually more and more of their assets in circular economy. So I wanted to also bring our attention to events and conferences, platforms that is happening all the time. This is one innovation summit that is announced for 2020. And that's where, all kinds of stakeholders come and share their ideas and their latest projects on the latest of the circular economy trends, innovation, etc. So this is my last slide. I mean, we know that the green finance is for sure to stay here and to increase due to the climate change, but of course due to also demands by society and regulators on the environment and social and governance safeguards. And there are many, many players, international financial institutions, private and institutional investors, government and startups. They are really inventing in terms of how to increase the sourcing. Green finance, green funding, sourcing. But if we take green finance as a new discipline, this is a relatively new area. So we need further refining of guidelines, tools, methodologies, and standards. But not only that, the entire enabling environment, the policies, regulation, laws that are provided by government, and also financial regulatory incentives, and at the same time, the monitoring and reporting on the use of green funds is still new, I would say, and still being debated and elaborated. And I call on all of us to make the best use of this new trend that is green finance. So thank you very much for your attention on my behalf, but also on behalf of Dr. Prasad Modak. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nara. Unfortunately, time is pushing us.
Yes.
So please be reglement. And I giving floor to Juan Carlos Lavadoras to present a very interesting technology for plastic utilization in different regions, but naturally Spain technology. It's very prospective for the Caspian region usage. Yes.
Well, thank you very much. It was a little bit difficult to join the session, but finally we are here. Thank you for giving us the opportunity, and Julia for holding this this web seminar. Our idea, I don't know if somebody has the slides, but well, the name was a solution for waste plastic use. Actually, what is important in the market is that there's a lot of pseudo solutions available in the market. When I say pseudo, is that a lot of people making noise from the last 10, 15 years because the technology, the base technology is there. But if you want to find a real solution, something that can couples with three of the requirements, which is technically feasibility, economically, it must be viable, and socially, it must be also viable. That means environmentally and personally, safety for the persons must also be inside the three steps of one technology. What is our knowledge? Knowledge is more than 10 years working in different plants, but actually we have one plant in Almeria working for more than 2 years, producing what I will tell you, it's a hydrocarbon. Why in Almeria? Almeria is very well known in Spain, but also in Europe because it's the largest area with greenhouses. So we have a lot of thousands of tons of plastic coming from agriculture. Actually, we are also finishing. We should be making the commissioning actually, but due to the COVID, we have delayed it 1 month. We are finishing a plan in Denmark, so relatively near, and also with a very strict overview about the environmental and the concept of circular economy. One important thing to consider in our plans is that we have a solution that gives a double circularity. What do we mean with that? Our products, who is a pyrolytic hydrocarbon with a lot of work behind in order to clean it and to have it adequate, is used first in the greenhouses. Their own greenhouses use it for their engines and the heat providers for the greenhouses and for the CO2 provide that is needed in the greenhouses. And the other leg of the circularity of our product is used actually by Repsol, who is our national oil company, that they use it to produce virgin plastics. This is important because nobody actually is using that for virgin plastic as a circular and as a valorization of the waste plastic as material. There's a lot of people making valorization of material plastic by mechanical, but none of them can produce another plastic. They can produce the same plastic, and even that, and it's important to see the figures, because sometimes in all this economy and circular economy, people forget to look at the figures. And more than 50% of the people that make mechanical valorization of plastic goes to the landfill because they are so dirty, they're not usable, because they have been recycled more than 1 or 2, 3 times. And then any specialist can tell you that after 2 recycling, it's not possible to do that. We are using that plastic. So this is important to understand, that we are having a double circularity and we are using, it can be used any plastic. Of course, if we're working in Almeria or we are having near a waste plastic for a municipality, we will design the plant to take that plastic or that waste, what is important. So for me, the main conclusions, or what is the characteristic of these plants? Basically, we design the plant to be modular. The idle plant, the modular idle plant is 12,000 tons per year. Why modular and why small? Because normally, one of the expensive thing of the waste, of the plastic waste, is to transport it. And another thing which is important is that sometimes you have different type of plastic that you must handle. If you have a modular plant, you can be very flexible. Your maintenance costs, your flexible costs to work it out will go very well with that type of design. What type of plastic we handle? Normally, the ones you have around. In Almeria, mainly, we have plastics coming from the agriculture, who are very difficult to handle in general because they are polluted. But also we have been testing during the last years, and we have been audited by large companies and large auditors to treat the waste management coming from the plastic of the municipalities, who is always dirt. It's always with plastic for films. So this type of plastic that nobody wants, we are able to handle it and to make it in a economically and safety way, which is important. So trying to be very concrete, there is a solution. We don't talk about it. When people sometimes years ago say, well, and how big is your plant? 1 ton, half a ton? No, it's 12,000 tons per year. It's not something coming from a lab. That period is already gone. We are just trying to increase. There you have actually 3 photos of the plant, who is designed, even the building is designed to be very safe. We have a lot of air flux that can go and clean and try to reduce at maximum any probably problem that can arise from using gases and oil and all that. Modularity solution with 12,000 tons per year, that's a good size. And the double economy, the economy from the materials that comes out and is used for engines, any type of engines, any type of heaters, but also to produce virgin oil, and with the good samples. And I think Repsol is, at least in Europe, is a very well-known company, is able to produce the new generation of plastics with their own plastic coming from, or their own fuel coming from our plants. Thank you very much. I hope some days we can have a lot of these plants going around.
Thank you very much. It's really a very interesting solution for the plastic. And I think that it would be useful for all participants for our forum. Let's move to the questions. I know that we've got a question from our audience. Yes, Dmitry?
Yes, I think, and we can probably even, Eduard can probably ask it. Eduard?
Да, добрый день.
Yeah.
Я, к сожалению, не говорю по-английски, но я думаю, тут много меня поймут, многие люди.
Okay, Eduard speaks Russian, but I can quickly translate his question. Да, вопрос задавайте тогда.
Дело в том, что я давно занимаюсь в России продвижением проектов по утилизации отходов различных видов. Это и нефтешламы, это медицинские отходы, это коммунальные стоки, промышленные отходы. На сегодняшний день в России у нас 4 завода. Стоит в Сочи, Екатеринбург, Новочебоксарск и Бзогу.
Да. Давайте просто вопросы-ответы пока, что мы реально уже...
Вопрос-ответ. Какие технологии по утилизации медицинских отходов и коммунальных отходов, которые на сегодняшний день содержат ковид, вы знаете, и в чем преимущество каждой? Если не знаете, то могу тоже рассказать о своей технологии.
Okay, this is question to all panelists. What technologies you can propose or projects for recycling of biological materials? Yes, Yulia.
I think it's first. It's a question for me. I think I'm speaking English, or Эдуард, или потом по-русски вы позвоните, как лучше.
Ну, я по-русски отвечу.
Я вам тоже тогда, вам лично потом, да, потом могу сказать. Вот, потому что если нас слушает аудитория на английском языке, то first of all, as for the technologies, as for warm technology, I've heard about your enterprises, which work with sewage waters, sludges. I know it. I know this technology, and I saw the information. I know that your technology, not your equipment, but the technology which provides the company, is included into the best available techniques.
А звука нет.
Звук пропал, да.
In the book number 15, as I remember. Yeah, and as for your question about the technologies, different kinds of technologies, if we begin to count it, believe me, we must spend a lot of time for this, But we know that there are, of course, technologies. There are some kinds of equipment, burning equipment, of course. It's safe technologies, says безопасные технологии, safe technologies. Then, of course, tourmaline is working everywhere. Mikhail Vostrikov, and there is a gasification technology from Chernogolovka Institute, also, of course, for reducing, for burning their COVID wastes. And there are some other technologies, believe me, it's safe technologies. But I think that we, as the Ministry of Industry and Trade, I think that within the scientific council of the Ministry of Industry and Trade, we can discuss and we can look at your technology. And if you send us the information about you, maybe with official letter to the Ministry of Industry and Trade, we could try. We could try and we could discuss and to compare your technology and your approach with other technologies and with other approaches. So I don't think that it's necessary to find and to show all the kinds of equipments and all kinds of technologies which are used in Russia. Of course, you know that now the situation is that within, again, I tell you that within the framework of the National Project Ecology, we must find a lot of solutions, and I'm sure that your equipment could be used, of course, if it's better than others. Let us try to present your technology maybe in different regions. Let us meet, and let us discuss. If you are in Moscow, I think that we could do it online, or we can do it in other. Maybe some later if you want to meet. I think that after 1 week we will start to work in the office in Moscow. So please send me your contacts, and I can give you my contacts, and my mail, my phone, and we can meet in Moscow if you don't mind.
Thank you very much. I think that our time limit is finished. So we have a question to Nara about green bonds, their perspectives, and possibility to use it in Baikal region. I think it's good discussion, and possible to use in Baikal region too. It would be interesting to know how UNEP can estimate possibility to use green bonds for the Caspian region too. I think it's very important, and we can prolong this discussion in couloirs after this brief session. Unfortunately, this problematic is really wider than 1 hour discussion, and to achieve great result, it's necessary to arrange maybe some sessions on this item. And at the end, I can give a floor for everyone who take part in this discussion to say maybe 1 or 2 words. In other case, our connection will be blocked. Okay? Okay. Vladimir, вам. 1 word.
Thank you very much. All. It was very nice. Even you didn't see me, I could see you and hear you, and very interesting, all the information. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and from my side, Yulia, thank you very much for this opportunity to take part here. And as for me, I will be very glad to meet with all the colleagues and to continue our discussions, because all the presentations, as for me, all the presentations were really very interesting. And thank you so much. Circular economy, as I told and as I presented, circular economy is very important. It's very interesting for me. I'm working with for many years with UNCRD, and as Laura mentioned, Professor Prasad Mudak from India. We met with him in many countries, and
very good.
he came to Moscow, and I remember him. And so if you meet him, my best wishes to him. And I think that he also remember me, because we tried to prepare 3R forum, 10th 3R forum in Russia. Yes, but unfortunately, you know that due to COVID, we will provide this forum not this year, but I hope next year. And we discussed with Yulia, with other colleagues. So Laura, I hope that we could meet in Russia with you also, and we will invite everybody to take part in this forum, because this forum will. I think that more than 40 countries, represented from more than 40 countries, will participate here, more than about 50 countries, because Europe will also enjoy, will also join this meeting. So thank you so much for your presentations, and thank you for the presentation of Lafarge company. Of course, as I mentioned, cement kilns and usage of cement kilns in the process of circular economy is also very important. So it's thank you, Yulia, thank you, Stanislav, for this opportunity to take part in this meeting, and I'm ready to continue our discussions later. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much. Once again, thank you, Caspian Week and Riverport Expo, who are giving this floor for us. Thank you for everyone.
Thank you.
See you soon.
Yes, thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
If we have still a couple seconds, I want to ask questions to Nara and Yulia. You have demonstrated that to speak about money, it should not be too loudy. Please, briefly, how to possible to receive support for financing for green projects? Maybe consulting support or information support, sources where audience could address their questions for the future.
Yes, there are many platforms, right? For instance, sector specific, maybe for waste sector. For instance, through Dr. Prasad Modak, we can get to source financing sources, but also, as I said, the international financial institutions, they provide a huge, vast number of tools and knowledge.
Sorry, Nora, I'm sorry. Please put at your presentation
Yes.
couple email addresses or platform.
Very
name.
good. Why not? Okay.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Okay,
Thank
good.
Okay, and
Thank
of course,
you.
at the beginning of our discussion, I open a secret that WebRF will be a center for Russian green bonds initiatives and green projects, green credits. And we hope that we will have National Methodological Center in WebRF. You're welcome, everyone who are taking part in this discussion, and all of your colleagues. We are ready, we are open, and we will be ready to investigate the projects and to give money, and hope that NARA will support us.
Yes, definitely.
Thank you very
Okay.
Thank you.